welcome Mr. Venkat Moorthy, Prime Mover 22/7. Please welcome Mr. Jayanta Lahiri, EVP and Global CIO First Source. I thank Mr. Karthik Ganapati, VP and MD Technology at CE India for joining us. Thank you, Mr. Anil Khatri, Head IT SAP. Thank you, Mr. Sree, CIO Tata Technologies. And lastly, thank you, Mr. Raj Gokhale, Director Lighthouse KPMG in India. Thank you, sir. I understand you'll be moderating this session, so the stage is all yours, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Dipti. A very good afternoon and a warm good afternoon and welcome to all the panelists over here. Some of you all I have met before and I've had some very nice conversations with already, and some are new, and I'm hoping that this session will be fun and engaging and insightful to our audience. So with that, I very quickly want to kick off and just lay the foundation for what we're going to be talking about today. I cite Martek's law. Martek's law says that technology changes exponentially, whereas, organizations change at a logarithmic pace. A lot of that leads to digital adoption curves that lag behind, most of the times. But I think if you look at COVID, and on the lighter side, there are jokes and memes like, what helped transformation in my company? That was COVID, right? I saw adoption of things like, as simple as Microsoft Teams in less than 5 days. And it was a little bad because consultants like us, lost out a little bit on gaining that advantage. But anyway, on the brighter side, I think, what I really wanted to talk about today is the human angle in this whole digital transformation piece, right? At the end of the day, the folks who use this technology, the folks who use digital to their benefit are us. And we are the ones who make the difference on the ground. And I really wanted to bring about and talk about some of these things on the ground and how the people factor and the people equation is the most critical and crucial of all. So with that, my very first question is, with COVID, we've been seeing that a lot of, even old school or traditional businesses, be it education, refining, even the kirana wala, there are things where people are considering, how do I go to cloud? How do I adopt AI? How do I use blockchain? How do I use this to transform my business? And I would say that that's only going to open the floodgates as far as more demand for services in digital and technology for IT and ITeS companies is concerned, right? But my question there, more than anything else, is, are we prepared to tackle this onslaught as far as new demand is concerned from very different industries, from different folks? And when I say, are we prepared to capitalize on this opportunity, I mean to say from multiple angles, right? In terms of our skills, our training for our people, standard operating procedures, processes, technology, etc., that enables this change to happen, be it remote monitoring, remote work from home, managing productivity, etc. So that would be my first question. And if you don't mind, Anil, can we start with you, please?
Sure. Thank you. So I come from a tech company. So, from a technology perspective, we were always ahead of the curve. But in general, I would say from an adoption perspective, I think most of the technological companies adopted all these technologies, cloud, whether it's artificial intelligence, and I would say including work from home or remote working, these things were very, very common in the tech industry. It was not something which COVID brought in. Let's say around 50, 60, 70% of the people used to work from home. Yeah, now we have 100% people working from home. So to a large extent, the tech companies were more or less prepared. We can never be 100% prepared. Yes, of course, our BCPs were tested at this point of time. But having said that, I think if you really see from an industry perspective, even at the personal level, even if I look at as old as my father and mother, they are used to a cloud. We are used to WhatsApp, and WhatsApp is what? It's a cloud thing, right? So I think the cloud adoption in India, though we say it's not yet there, but I would say that this is more or less a big time there, right? And right from the digital technologies like the payment gateways and all those things. So we are seeing a big things wave up there. Coming back to the enterprise per se, my take is we are all there already, right? Even if people who were not there have adopted it and are there, right? Now the question comes is, what do we do from here, right? Do we stick on to this, or what's going to happen? In my personal sense, the on-prem world, or the world which we were in before, if there were any laggers, have moved on, and we are going to see a fierce competition happening in the digital space as such, right? So that's my simple take on it. I'll leave others to talk more.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you so much for sharing that. As a lead-in, I would like Mr. Jayanta, if you could answer this question. First source, you come from the BPO space. Would be very interesting to hear your views on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on this session. So for BPO, we are mostly into BPO for large banks and healthcare, mortgage, and various other streams. And for us, security is of utmost importance for our clients. And never in the past, really, we have worked from home. Contrary to Anil's point earlier that Anil was mentioning, being an IT company, we're always ready. Yes, from BPO perspective, also we are ready, but we are never allowed by our clients to work from home because they said, hey, you cannot take our end clients' data to your employees' home. And there are various security concerns, but COVID has actually created a new dimension altogether. And, we moved all our agents, employees, advisors, or within a matter of days to work from home, except probably a few banking clients who are still not very okay to get our advisors to work from home. So security played an important role, and there are securities with respect to physical security. Mostly, I will say, in addition to the normal standard technology security, there are physical securities as to whether how many people are there in front of the computer, the likes of whether there is somebody else sitting in front of the computer, are you able to see clients' data in the computer? Are you getting your mobile phone in front of the computer, right? So all of that is getting monitored now through an AI-based engine. And in addition to that, cloud played a very important role because we are already cloud ready, and cloud plays important role in terms of scalability, availability, and all of that. And so cloud and security both are important. In addition, also, there was a whole lot of tools that got deployed for collaboration. Never in the past it has happened that our agents, advisors were working from home, and our team leads and managers were interacting them from home. So this is again a new dimension of collaboration engine. So we implemented multiple collaboration engines. I would say this is real now, and this is going to be there. Our clients are happy, including our banking and healthcare clients. They want us to continue in a way that we are right now. And in going forward, cloud and AI, robotics, analytics, collaboration, all of those tools are going to be very important for BPO sector.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Jayanta. That was, I did have, as a consulting organization, we do have access to a lot of problems and challenges that our clients face. And from a BPO perspective, I think the readiness that you showed was wonderful. And it's fantastic, really. So my compliments there. The next, I now want to ask Venkat his perspective on this, because based on what I understand, Venkat, the BCP space seems to be really hot. And that was one area where we always say we are always prepared, right? It's an Excel spreadsheet and a large document. And then, when it comes down to the readiness factor, hey, where's that laptop? As something as simple as that, where's my data? So there are those very basic niggly issues that come up, right? So if you could give some thoughts on that, Venkat.
I think, first of all, thanks for having me, and happy to be part of this great panel. I was actually thinking yesterday, I was walking with one of the senior most colleague in IBM. I mean, senior most who stays in my apartment. So I was telling Venkat, what would have happened if COVID would have hit us 10 years back? Okay, technology today is really been blessing in disguise, right? Today you have a cloud, your data availability is much better. It's up to us as an organization. How do we really adapt to those technology and stay ahead of the competition, right? So that's one aspect. Now, as Mr. Anil rightly said, that when it comes to our company, working from home is never been an issue because we are into services. We know how to work 24/7. We have our own knock facilities and stuff like that. So that's never been a challenge. The challenge with respect to technology is sort of taken care for most of ITeS kind of a companies, right? Because they know what technology is there, what to use, what not to use, how well they use a different issue altogether. But the challenge has been, how do we get the same care we've been giving to our employee? The employee aspect actually comes into picture, right? How do we get those same trust? How do we ensure that we really talk to our employees and ensure that the future is bright? I think that portion is, I think most of the companies are really struggling with that because it never happened. I think in our living memory, we have never seen things like that, right? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. In fact, I was actually going through one of the survey, though it's a little dated, about 2-3 months old. When Fortune surveyed the companies of the 2020 Fortune 500 companies, right? This is my favorite, analysis about 2-3 points. When they asked, when Fortune asked these 500 companies when the economy is going to come back to, the level it was before the pandemic, they said it may be in 2023, right? And the same companies are asked when it's you're going to travel back as it is to be pre-COVID. 51% said I don't think so. They're never going to travel, right? And 26% of the people said they're never going to back to the workplace, right? So I think this is where the business continuity really plays a major role. While things may not be as worst as what they have said here, and things are going to improve, but then the way we deal with people, data, and things are really going to change. I think we should be really prepared. And COVID really taught us, how to be really proactive in ensuring that technology works for people. I think that's my take, Ruviraj.
Thank you very much, Venkat, for that insight. Those points are amazing from Forbes. Actually, having some statistics around an argument always helps more than anything else. And surveys always matter most. With that, I want to quickly jump on to Shree. Your thoughts on this space, please. You're on mute, Shree, I think.
Yes, I was on mute. I didn't want you guys to be too overwhelmed with the sounds of the birds and everything happening around here. Anyhow, but thank you so much for the opportunity. And a great question, great session. I think most of us, if not all, have managed to keep our companies afloat and made sure that we've done everything that we could do to ensure that productivity wasn't lost, right? When people talk about, has productivity increased and how have we managed various things, each one of us is in a different industry. Tata Technologies is, our fundamental business is in helping manufacturing companies, right? And our bread and butter is ER&D, or basically designing cars, trucks, planes, whatever, right? And so it's a lot of heavy engineering work, and to one day just take everybody from these high-tech environments that they are in and move them home was a challenge. But for the most part, we managed to bring in technology and solve that, right? How we now go ahead and say that, okay, is this sustainable or not, is going to be a longer conversation, I suppose.
Absolutely, Shree. And the challenges that you have, I think, are very different than some of the challenges that we all spoke of before. And that I think is adding to the richness of this conversation, because we've got some very different people, or rather different industries in the room, but all of us use technology for our bread and butter. So that's amazing. Karthik, your perspective, please.
Yeah. So I'm with Honeywell Connected Enterprise. So Honeywell is an industrial 100-year-old company, and we were making the transition to become an industrial software organization pre-COVID, and because that was more we were hearing from customers. You're seeing very secular trends when it comes to what's happening with the explosion of data, the ability to harness the data, process it. The previous keynote that we were in, we were hearing about how Shell was doing the AI, ML, the real-time models, physical models, etc. Right? So Honeywell lives all of that as well, and then the other very secular thing, which we all alluded, is it's around the mobile worker or the mobility that's there. The cell phone is much more powerful than the computers that send people to the moon in the first place. So there's immense power that's in the pockets of everyone. And so we are hearing this from customers pre-COVID as well. And then when we think of what happened in this phase, Honeywell, we were building solutions based on the customer needs and solving their problems in terms of trying to create a unified operating model which marries IT data, which is where my the colleague here, Anil, lives in, which is SAP, and then the OT data, which is what Shree lives in for most part. And how do you marry that information, create a unified platform so that as an executive, I can see how my business is functioning at any given point of time. And that automatically lends into being able to control, manage information systems, processes sitting remotely. So the solutions were happening, it accelerated. The other big push that happened has been around the ability to drive autonomous control in terms of how do we actually not just view information, how do I actually initiate an action remotely, and how do we drive that control, and how do I manage the extensibility of my offer set. So with our enterprise performance management solution set, we are accelerating this digital shift in an organization. The big piece, of course, where constraints put on the workers on the floor, because ultimately we deal with equipment. We deal with something where a human has to disposition an action, and that constraints results in creating new workflows in terms of remote process management, understanding how the alerts mean, what are the recommendations of a particular asset, be it a chiller, be it a compressor, what have you, and figuring out, okay, is this person actually at the workplace that particular day? Is he assigned something else? So I go talk to PeopleSoft, I have to go talk to SAP, and I have to talk to all the MES systems, and executing that in a seamless manner so that the worker who's sent to the floor can actually perform the task. All the assistance he or she can get, which is all going to be remote now. So there is no huddling in a room to figure out a solution. So these accelerated the solution sets that came through, and there is a lot of traction that we are seeing with the customers, because this, by the way, would have happened COVID or no COVID. I think the time scale has accelerated now, and it's what we're seeing is that the use cases are getting proven because of the COVID contingency that has happened, and I think those will be here to stay. And I think one of our colleagues alluded, Jayanta alluded around being cloud, which becomes natural, have to be extremely secure. You have to start managing things in a manner where you're sitting in a coffee shop and trying to make a decision, or actually sitting in your living room and making a decision, not even since coffee shops are closed to. So that's where we are evolving. And underneath all of that, there is another big driver, which is around the workforce itself is transitioning. The industrial workforce in general is aging. And this is a secular trend anywhere in the world. And how do we actually enable that transition of information and cater to the new set of folks who are coming into the workplace who are used to very different models of working? And that's what I think COVID is bringing. This phase of COVID has actually brought that to bear very, very clearly. And what are the things we need to put in place to really change those operating paradigms, so to speak?
Thank you so much, Karthik, for that. That was really well articulated. That was I really love the way you use the word secular. But I also want to pick up one thing from that where you said power in your pockets on your cell phone and WhatsApp, right? And I want to bring out two dimensions to this, right? It's earlier on, like, and I'm going to be a little colloquial here. What is he doing out there? What is that guy up to? No, I think he was just having some chai. Somebody's gone for sutta. The other guy says, oh, that guy's always at the cooler, man. What's going on? Right? And then somebody, you see, the guys who are conference room rats, the guys who want to hound conference rooms all the time, right? Or it's booked for the next 4 days. What do you do for the next 4 days in a conference room? But the point is that one side they're saying we need to be together to collaborate, right? We need to be together to collaborate. The other point is, as you're collaborating, as you're working with all these things in your pocket that are engineered to take your attention away from work, right? And we've seen some of that from Netflix documentaries recently as well. I want to bring these two dimensions together and ask you all, how do you ensure two things? One is, how do you measure productivity in a I can't see anything kind of an environment? Because now you're not able to see these guys in a conference room. You're not able to see these guys around. You're not able to just, go ahead and ask them a question. So how are you measuring productivity? And when I say productivity, I'm not just saying, okay, we just leave it to them and they get the job done. That's one way of measuring output and productivity consequently. But what is the real meaning of measuring productivity in today's age? And as a driving force to that, collaboration, right? What is true collaboration in its right sense? Because I'm thinking collaboration for somebody like Shree, who deals with very different objects, versus somebody like, say, Jayanta, would be two very different aspects, right? So what does true collaboration mean, and how do we measure productivity in today's time? And for that, I want to start with you, Shree. I want to get your perspective on this.
I think this is a great question, right? And something we are extremely passionate about. And truth be told, I doubt very much if anybody's really cracked that productivity measurement problem statement, right? So when we look at this, we're all social animals, right? I mean, we work better in groups. Some people love to study in a crowded environment. Some people need a very secluded small spot, right? There are folks that we see studying at Starbucks. I mean, I don't quite understand how that happens, but there are different things happening, right? I mean, different dynamics, different things work for different people. Same thing with workplace, right? And all of a sudden, we've taken that out and we've said, you're not going to be monitored by anybody. You're not going to see your general colleagues around near you. And we're just going to give you a computer and a video system whenever you have meetings, and then go ahead and do your work, right? So have we really solved that problem? I don't think so, right? The one thing that is emerging is having managed to steady the boat, so to speak, right, through the COVID months. I think we know that we can, things won't go belly up, right? We can still do some kind of work, but now focus is on process, right? Focus is on making sure that our processes are so good that any work that is given can hopefully be segmented, measured, right, and given to different people, so that once the work is done, then of course that they are being productive or not, right? And for that, you really need very, very strong processes. And if people really look into their hearts of their own hearts and their own organization's hearts, I would suggest that our processes are okay, right? In a lot of ways, it does not, although we would love to have ubiquitous automation across the entire order to cash cycle, we don't see that really happening. And so I think once that gets solidified, then I think we'd be able to do a lot more with this productivity thing. And on the collaboration tools, right? Now think about it, right? At Tata Technologies, we are all engineers. We build not just engineering products, but we also design software and implement enterprise solutions for manufacturing customers. A lot of collaboration happens in these very large conference rooms where we've got a glass board or a whiteboard across the entire wall, and people are, ideating and doing various things. How has that been digitized now? Although there are technologies, we're not, and I'll throw it out to everybody else, but we're not really shipping digital pens and electronic pads to people to do whiteboarding in truly a collaborative manner, right? It's now, if you ask people, and everybody say it's a little cost prohibitive, and we might look at it a little later, right? And I think that kind of collaboration is seriously lacking. And I would draw a parallel with video conferencing systems. In the yesteryears, when we had video conferencing systems, and then we had telepresence wanted to make you feel part of that group, part of that table, right? Even though people were in 6 different locations. And it was cost prohibitive there as well. But now that we are at home with Zoom and Teams and whatever else, I think we need to start working on, and the industry needs to start working on better and cheaper mechanisms so that we can truly collaborate. Try signing your name using your touchpad, right? It's really, really hard, right? So I think collaboration means a lot to us, and I'm hoping that somehow that problem gets solved to a certain extent, and then we can probably do something.
Thank you so much, Shree, for that. Very insightful. We have some time left. I'm just going to take one more. I'm just going to extend this question to one more person, and then I want to jump into another question after this. So please don't mind if I miss out on anybody on this one. But on the same track, Jayanta, I really want to hear your views on this whole part of measurement, productivity, and collaboration, because the BPO industry measures everything, right? And you are in the business of measuring everything, because I mean, clients will hold you to that, right? So how is the world different now to you, or it isn't that different?
Absolutely. So yeah, I completely agree with you. And for us, for BPO industry, productivity links to revenue, and there are clients where we have to give them productivity report almost a daily basis or a weekly basis as to how many hours the agent has worked, how many hours he or she has taken off, and all of that. And based on that, our revenue gets decided. So it all depends on. So we have technology tools embedded in our systems, in the laptops or whatever systems that the advisors, agents have. And this is not just now. In the pre-COVID scenario, also the same policy was there. That with the tools, everybody's productivity will be measured. How many hours he or she has worked on the computer, how many hours he or she has taken off. Everything is online, and productivity is of utmost importance for us. The only problem that we have in the COVID scenario is that sometimes these softwares, they tend to take a lot of bandwidth, right? And sometimes the data may not be available as we used to get it almost immediately in the pre-COVID scenario. So sometimes we get delayed in providing the reports to our client, but absolutely it is mandatory that we have to measure 100% productivity of our agents. So that is for the productivity part. On the collaboration part, collaboration is again extremely important. Earlier days, our managers and team leads, they could walk up to the advisors' desks and say, hey, whether everything is working fine, you need any help, but those days are gone, and everything has to be done through collaboration tools. So we have provided collaboration tools to all our executives, engineers, advisors, agents. 100% of our people are on Teams or Zoom or WebEx, whatever you call it, right? Multiple tools are there. And in addition to that, there is a unique, paradigm shift which is happening now. Gone are those days where for a new recruit, we could not even think about those kind of scenarios earlier. The new recruit is not joining, he's not coming to any office. They're joining directly from home, right? And thereby, collaboration is extremely important for the new recruits in terms of their day one training, day two training, and thereby we are working on multiple training tools to provide that real life scenario, real life environment, including as she was mentioning about whiteboarding. So we have a specific whiteboarding tool which we use in a collaborative way so that everybody can see what others are doing. And so I mean, lot of technology deployment happening, which was not there earlier, to manage both productivity as well as collaboration. And to that extent, yes, it has also increased our overall TCO for technology.
Thank you so much, Jayanta, for that. That was very insightful as well. We have a few minutes left. I want to touch upon one final question. And I would request each one of you all to take maybe not more than a minute, since we have about 5 minutes to go, and I like to be true to time. The aftermath of this COVID thing, and I'm sure each one of you is seeing facets of it differently, but it has kind of created some major issues from a social perspective, right? Social perspective. I mean, end of the day, as you know, as Shree said, we are social beings, right? And now I would like to say earlier on, there was work and there was life. And now we live at work, right? We live at work. And there's no demarcation between what is personal and professional anymore. Calendars are booked throughout the day. There's no travel. There's no reprieve. And that has actually started creating issues as well, right? I mean, like the instance that, as Jayanta said, people are joining from home without ever going to an office for an induction. What does that mean for a person not being able to see his colleagues, meet his boss, meet some people? I think it leaves a indelible impression. And we are seeing, even we as an organization, as a firm, we set up all the right interventions so that people could call in at various levels and they could trust folks to talk. But it is a very real problem, and it is creating issues like mental illness, social stress within families, and it's left an indelible cost on society. And I would like each one of you to give your thoughts in, say, a minute on this before we wrap up this session. And I would like to start with you, Anil, if that's okay.
Yeah, so very quickly, I think the problem is very, very real. This has been voiced out. I will not even go to the organization straight by my team also, and we saw this. But one thing I would also let you know that over the period of 9 months, people have adopted. So what I could hear 3 months back is not what I'm hearing now. So people have adapted to this. Having said, is the work-life balance there? Not yet. But we've taken small measures, and I will tell you, this is very, very small. So let's say when you book a meeting, you usually get a 30-minute slot or a 1-hour slot or a 2-hour slot. What we did throughout our organizations, we changed the calendar. So if you book a meeting, you can only book for 25 minutes. Okay, the last 5 minutes are not bookable. So you get a break, and in that manner, at least a person is having some breaks to come in. And if you book a 1-hour meeting, you can book only for 50 minutes. So you get a 10 minutes break. So your calendars are free. Small things like this, right? We are also looking at a world which after COVID would be a hybrid world where people can come to office for two days in a month or so as such. So we are looking at a hybrid world. Also, what we are doing is making some very, very policy-driven changes. I will tell you, like, we made a forceful 1-day leave in a month for everybody. You like it or not like it, you will take leave. Because what we saw is people are not taking leaves at all. So it's like that day, everybody is on leave, okay? And then you are forced to take leaves, right? So very small things which help in a human touch manner. Also, what we have done, at least many of the managers have adopted this, and we said this as, we have in a month 1 hour blocked for an informal session. No talks, no official talks. Nobody is allowed to talk anything official, but you are free to join this session and a very informal session. You talk about COVID, you talk about families, you talk about anything and everything. Okay, so it's the small measures which we have taken to really take the stress away and bring back people to life in whatever manner we can.
Thank you so much, Anil. I love the 25-minute, 50-minute one. It's amazing. That's a really nice one. Venkat, quickly, if you could.
No, I think very difficult to answer in 30 seconds, 1 minute, but I quite agree with Mr. Anil. See, for me, the challenge has been always the people, right? I think even pre-COVID, last 3 years, when you do annual business plans, while numbers are very important, but we work towards making a great place to work. And luckily last year, we've been awarded as a company a great place to work officially. So to keep that up, so I've been spending a lot of my time with HR. So what Anil said, informal session, we also came out with a session called Team Ki Chaupal. Individual guys will go and sit with them, chai pe charcha. We ensure that all our employees, carry the team. And I am spending a lot of time with the new joinees, as Mr. Jayant rightly said, right? So I think it's important that we are trying to come out. How do we increase the happiness quotient? I think that's the most important thing. The day you are happy, you never work, and you never work, automatically the productivity will increase. I think we all are, because we know very little you can do about productivity. However tools you do. No, I know a lot of companies have Slack as a info session to discuss, but I've seen 99% they don't use Slack, but they use WhatsApp. I think these all are feel good things to have, but then it's important to have that human touch. I know for companies like SAP and Tata, it's very difficult because the scale is very high. For me, I'm still a smaller guy, with 100, 150 people with me. So it's a little easier to manage. So I think the most important thing during this time to ensure that you give that care, the e-care, deliver the e-care, and the trust. You try and get the trust from the employees. When I say trust, you walk the talk and ensure that you are there when there's a problem, not when things are happening. Typically, we do town halls, a lot of things we do when things are good. But I'm saying you start being at the issue. I mean, when there is an issue, you please be there. Don't try to escape, and ensure that the togetherness is there. Like one of the things we've decided that we will never throw anybody out during the COVID, right? We've decided to stay together. Somebody wants to go, we might not ask them to stop. I mean, we will not stop them. But at the end of the day, we've decided conscious decision. Either we live together or die together. You know what I'm saying? These are the very, very important things that to show as a top down, saying that we are there for you. I think that's the most important aspect to increase the productivity. The moment they are comfortable, they deliver much better. I think for me, the people sell people, and that's the most important aspect, Viraj.
Thank you so much, Venkat. Karthik, very quickly.
Yeah, so I think I echo pretty much what others have said, because there are some things we all have to do. And again, as a software organization, and a global organization, there are always teams in different time zones. So there was already a challenge of managing your overall schedule in a particular day anyway. Some of the things we are doing, so there is a lot of automation. We can understand, we go by Scrum team, so it's very agile setup. So we understand how Scrum teams are performing, how they are not performing, and intervene, etc. So those are sort of the run the business type items. But from a touch standpoint, we are doing a lot of things that Anil talked about. One thing I have insisted that my leadership team do is to have one-on-one calls with respective at least 15, 20 people every week, and I do the same. And it's open-ended, and it's also in the spirit of having this collegial environment, so folks can actually talk and raise issues. And we have unearthed a lot of interesting things around training, around managing, just advice on managing time, advice on staying healthy in the lockdown, etc. And that's helping. The big challenge for all of us is going to be that good talent will be heavily sought after, and these differentiators are the ones that are going to make people decide whether they're going to be here or somewhere else, and it's going to be a very zero-sum game. And more we do for our folks, it helps. It helps the health of the organization, obviously, but also it helps create a more sustaining environment in a long run. And these learnings, I think, will stay beyond COVID as well. So it will just become part of your regular practice.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Karthik. Shree, are you there? I mean, I'm not seeing you on video, so I don't know whether you're around or... Okay.
He's pretty much there. Yeah.
Yeah, Shree, could you very quickly take a minute?
Is my camera not showing?
No, it's not, but it's okay. You can proceed. Yeah, okay. Now you are visible. Now you are visible.
Oh, okay. One of the things that we learned. And I just wanted to demonstrate that we have these kind of breaks where my internet goes out, right in the middle of an important conversation. I wanted to kind of make that point. I'm just kidding. But but right, on the people aspect, I think it's like I alluded to earlier, right? I don't believe this is a sustainable model, right? While we've managed to keep the ship afloat and make sure that our companies don't go under, but over time all you have to do is just Google mental illness and COVID, and you'll get a ton of papers. And I'm just quoting something that I read in a McKinsey article. Anxiety and depression is at an all-time high, right? People are really distressed. I mean, it is, 1 in 4 people reported binge drinking at least once a week, right? 1 in 5 people reported taking prescription drugs for non-medical purposes, right? And 1 in 7 reported using illicit drugs. So, and beyond that, the number of searches on Google has gone up 75% for domestic abuse. The number of arrests in the Western countries, I mean, India, you won't find that kind of statistic, but in the West, they keep a track of all this, and the number of arrests for domestic abuse is at an all-time high. So I'm saying that this is not something that we should take lightly, right? We will face a very different kind of a pandemic, in another year, 2 years, unless we really try to figure out what we can do for the mental health of our employees in our organizations, right? And even if you take something as simple as conducting a meeting, and I was talking about this earlier, where most of our discussions at work are passionate discussions, right? There are differing views. There are very strong points being made. People might even use strong words, right? Everything is not just hugs and kisses, right? So how do you have that in this kind of environment where, the lower strata of our society, I'm talking about the bottom of the pyramid, right? They're living in either PGs, paying guests, or shared accommodations, or 1-bedroom, 2 BHK houses with, extended families. And they've kept their laptop on their dining table or on their bed, or, and they're just trying to manage. And when you're having these kind of discussions, forget about having headsets and whatever else. That's only one part of the problem. But you can easily see from the demeanor of your spouse, whether you're having a good day or a bad day, right? And that causes undue stress. Earlier, we were separated, right? We had our work life, and then we came home and we had our home. And I think if we don't recognize that delineation, I think we'd do ourselves a big, huge disservice. But I'm hoping that there are smarter people, that are hopefully doing things that will alleviate some of these problems that I'm talking about. But great question.
Thank you, Shree. Thank you for those views. I think I kind of agree with that to some extent as well. Last but not least, Jayanta, if you can give your perspective, and then we can wrap up this session.
Yeah, I think, I completely agree with Sree's point of view, and we also have similar issues and challenges, where employees are working, from their home, from their bedroom. They don't have place to work from. In addition to that, the situation gets aggravated when there's a power cut, where on the other hand, the company is calling them, hey, where are you? Why are you not online? And there's no power at their home. So multiple issues, and I agree with Sree that this is a challenge that we may not have a solution immediately. However, engagement or collaboration that you do with your employees, but this challenge is going to remain. So we'll have to find a solution. We don't have an immediate solution as of now, I would say.
Thank you for the candor there, Jayanta. So with that, I think we've got some wonderful views on this panel. I think it was a very engaging one, and I hope the audience also found the questions and even the answers insightful, and a very different dimension to what we keep talking about on a day-to-day basis on the digital side of things, right? So with that, Dipti, we'd like to wrap up the session. Back to you.